Well, first of all, thank you very much. Actually, properly, thank you for making the time. I really,
Oh,
really appreciate it. I know you're going to be flying off this way, that way, all over the place. So I do really appreciate it. And it's just wonderful to see your face again.
yeah. Oh, it's been such a long time. It's so nice to see you.
I know. It's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. So, come on, we need proper catch up. What
Yeah.
young James have you been up to? James Zealey, take it away.
um, yeah. So I am the bass player in a band called China Bears.
Ah, brilliant.
I want yeah. We've been a band now since uni. So we met um 2015, and then we've just been trying to sort of make something of it since. I'm in a few bands. So I have my own band called White Leaf, which is one which is basically songs that I write and sing. Um,
So
but
in
we
Whiteleaf, you play bass and sing,
White Leaf I play guitar and sing,
guitar and sing.
and then China Bears I play bass and backing vocals. But yeah, that's sort of we've been trying to. We've had
Are they
a
the
fairly
main two bands?
yeah.
China
I
Bears,
do
Whiteleaf, check them out.
yeah. Thank you, cheeky little plug.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all kind of, I guess, indie rock stuff, indie alternative. Um, yeah. China Bears in particular, sort of massive fans of like The National, and Frightened Rabbit, um, and I guess sort of the earlier, I guess Kings of Leon's a big one. So yeah, it's just sort of that sort of ballpark of stuff. Um, we managed to go to Texas in March, which was
brilliant.
like just sort of surreal for us. We were meant to go initially at the start of the pandemic, um, and obviously
Yeah,
that got delayed.
no
So
worries, no worries. But you got there in the
we,
end.
we got there in the end. It's really great. Um, yeah, just played some cool shows. Ate lots of good food. This is
Brilliant.
the best. That's one of the best bit, but very good. But yeah, and we're getting ready to go on our a tour beginning of October, which is a UK tour, to tour this new EP that
Mhm.
we've released 3 of the tracks from currently. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but the full EP might be out by then. It's gonna be a 4-track EP.
Anything
Um,
up on YouTube that I can include at the end of the video? Put
yeah,
links
yeah,
in.
absolutely, yeah. There's
Perfect. We'll
yeah,
sort that out.
there's links I'll send you over. um, yeah, it's all sort of seems to be sort of building up momentum. Yeah, we live in different parts of the country, which has its challenges. So we do a lot of stuff like this, like online sessions. A lot of just sort of sitting on Zoom, um, with someone having Logic open, and they'll like screen share the project, and we'll sort of work that way. Um, and then we'll also meet up in the practice room and yes, arrange songs like that, I guess. But definitely China Bears is the main sort of, all my time goes into that. And then White Leaf I do whenever I can, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's definitely you got to sort of put everything else on hold for it, really.
Well, that's
That's what
fascinating because
yeah.
I remember
Mm,
hearing before about a couple of people who lived at opposite ends of the country who would
mm.
send over individual tracks in like
Yeah,
cassettes
yeah,
and stuff by
yeah.
post. But I've this is the first time I've heard of an
Mm.
actual personal story of musicians across the country getting together on
Yeah.
Zoom and doing stuff
Well, that's
electronically.
yeah. So I mean, we'd be lost without it. Like, it's such a useful tool.
Mm.
It's the thing. Logic, that my use of Logic is everything I learned in your class at school. Like,
Mm.
every day I'm so grateful that I did the technology course, because I use it every day. So
Mm.
it's like really really useful.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Um,
And in what
but yeah,
ways do you use it? Is it for
So
recording your individual tracks and then sending them over?
yeah, stuff like that. So this new EP, a lot of it was recorded remotely in our individual hometown. So I did a lot of my bass tracks through. I have a Kemper. I'll show you a Kemper amp profiler,
Brilliant.
which can basically just be any amp I want it to be. So it's good for me because here's one I made earlier. You can't see this. I'm holding sort of a toaster looking kind of thing. But it's good for like guitar. And
So
bass.
that's an amp. Does it actually have a speaker connected to it as well, so it can actually play out?
It has a power output that you can plug into any cab. So I've got a bass cab down here that it's a powered head, so you don't need to supply any other power apart from the head. So I use this for live as well.
Mate, that looks beautiful. I want to talk about that more later.
Yeah, I love it. It's definitely for as a studio tool, just phenomenal, like for recording bass and guitar. But anyway, so for this EP, we would send over the Logic profile as a zip, so we've got all the files over one. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. No worries. Lost you for a sec, but the audio kept going. All good.
That's cool. That's cool. But yeah, we transfer over the files, and then we have this thing called it's a plugin called Audio Movers, which basically you open it up as a plugin on Logic, and you put it on the master track, and it sends all of the audio that's on your Logic via a link. So you basically send that link to the other person, and then they can hear remotely your session. And then we just have a camera set up on Zoom. So that's basically how we do it. But yeah, so we did all the bass on this new EP. I think all the bass on this new EP, maybe bar one song, all like that. And then we did everything else sort of in the room together. I guess having the Kemper, it offers that level of sort of, we don't need to go to a studio to set up an amp set up a microphone on an amp and get it done properly. It's already, the amp has already been profiled and recorded by someone else, and that's the amp that it emulates it to sort of that sort of studio standard. Yeah, it's definitely a brilliant tool.
That was fantastic. How much was it?
It was just under $2,000, so it was definitely the most like I've ever spent on anything. But I was just like, I'm taking this band seriously, and I want to do something to come of it. So I need to invest into it, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but so the whole band after uni, because the reason we're all over the country is because Ivan and Fraser, twin brothers, they're from Somerset, so they're living with their parents. Dean, our drummer's from Northern Ireland, but he lives in London, and he actually works at our old uni. So he commutes from Surbiton to Guildford. That's where he is.
Wow.
And I'm in Southampton. I've moved in with my partner, who's from here, and we've got a house here. So but straight after uni, we all four of us lived at my parents' house in Aylesbury.
Oh wow.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I'll bet. But mate, that's the best way to get stuff going.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Because we didn't. If we were all from the same hometown, we obviously would just go and we'd probably, or we would have been there for a long time, just living up and doing everything in the hometown. But that is, I'd say, the one setback of meeting people at uni and being in a band. Because there might be a few others, but like that's the literally housing is such an important thing to consider, because if you have to go on a out of nowhere, if you get like a support tour with a band that you think is really going to push you forward, you have to drop everything, and and that means drop work to do this, to with the hopes of that pushing the band forward. But if if your house is too expensive, if your rent is too expensive, it's a real thing to consider. So it's definitely something that you always sort of juggle in the band life. And that's the same with how the jobs that you apply for, you sort of take the sacrifice in the sense of it has to be flexible with the band. That the band has to be the priority if you want anything to come of it, really.
Absolutely. Right. Important question, Bomb.
Yeah, go for it.
Roughly how many hours per day would you as a band practice when you were all starting off?
When we were starting off,
I'll tell you what. Let's do a whole story, all right? So you guys met at uni. You decided to create a band, right? First off, was China Bears the original band name? And how did you come up with it?
So the band, Ivan and Fraser, and we used to have someone else called Rosie, all from Somerset. They started the band when they were 17, and it had gone through like various variations before they'd come to uni. But the name China Bears, I wasn't in the band at the time when it came around. They were in a practice room and they had a gig coming up, and they were like, there was a big map on the wall, and Fraser, our guitar player, was just like, what about place an animal? And he went like China Bears, like that. So that's the story.
All right, just boom, boom, done. Oh, well, that's one way to do it, isn't it? Because one of the main things that I've had to sort out from students when I've been like, right, you need to come up with a band name, and they're like, oh god, what are we doing? And they actually start stressing out. Fair enough. Yeah. Map, get a place, get animal.
It's hard to do. It definitely is a hard thing to do. Like with Whiteleaf, I went for something that was obviously in Aylesbury as Whiteleaf Cross.
All right.
Like the hill with the sort of the cross cut out of it. And I would just always go there as a kid, and my parents would go there all the time just because we loved the place. So it was just like, well, I guess that sort of place means something to me.
Yeah.
And that, I guess that kind of one word, Whiteleaf, that works for me. So that is an approach, but also it doesn't have to be that deep. Like, it is, at the end of the day, it has to be like catchy. Like, like you want someone to remember it. You don't want it to be too generic. Like at uni, they always told us if you type the band name in Google, like what comes up, and like if it's like something generic, like it's going to bring up all sorts of things before your band. Yeah. Like if you were just going to call yourself like Cars or something like that, you would not like, you would get like all the Cars, and then your band would be somewhere at the moment. So China Bears, we've kind of got a bit like of a healthy, like if you type it in Google, hopefully it should be the first thing that comes up. But sometimes you do just get like pictures of pandas.
Yeah.
Like before.
That's what I was going to say. It's like the actual name gives me a bit of cognitive dissonance, because I'm like, well, you might as well just call yourself Pandas. It's China Bears. The most famous bears in China are pandas.
Yeah.
But I love it. So,
we got
band name. You met in uni, already had a band name, got together. How did it come about to make a decision to all live at your house? Is it when you all decided to take the band super serious?
Yeah, so, I guess towards the end of uni, we were like, this is what we want to do. We had a keyboard player, Rosie. She decided that she didn't want to take it as seriously as we did. So it was just fair enough. It's like, you got to be fully in, and if you're like, if you're not fully in, that is that's what it is. So,
absolutely.
We're still very good friends, and she's singing on the new EP, and she's sung on a lot of the old stuff as well. So she's got a really nice relationship with the band of sort of, it's not a goodbye, it's just like she'll come back in and out and help us.
That's wonderful. Sort of more as a session role.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But she's an artist in her own right, and her music's amazing too. So she's Rosie
Fantastic.
Pepper. I'll plug that there.
Yeah. Rosie Pepper.
Yeah, Rosie Pepin. Yeah.
Rosie Pepin. Perfect.
Yeah, that's
nice one. There we go, Rosie. That's for you.
Yeah. But sorry, actually, going back to your question. So
Yeah. So
the simple answer, really, well, after we finished uni in Guildford, we all sort of stuck about in Guildford for a while, just working jobs and trying to sort of make something of it. And we were all working full-time jobs to be able to afford our rent, and it was a bit of a sort of miserable thing. We're like, oh, we don't really have much time to do the band because we're just sort of putting everything into making enough money to survive in is an expensive
as pretty
area.
much everybody does these days. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess the simplest reason why we moved into my parents is my mum offered. And I think I was like venting to my mum one time. I was like, we're just, we're working so much and stuff like that. She was like, what if you all lived here? And I was like, well, yeah, actually that'd be great.
So, mate, big shout out to James Zealey's mum. A proper hero. Now, seriously, if it isn't for people like that, then people's dreams don't become a reality. Thank 100%. You, James Zealey's mum, Mrs. Zealey.
Yeah. She's the best. She's the best. You really do. You need to, if you want to be in a band, you've got to surround yourself with people that understand that it's not overnight success.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. Yeah.
It's the long game. I mean, it's overnight success for some people, but it's like for us we found.
I say, I'm not being funny. Overnight successes largely depends on who you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's the contacts. But yeah, that was fantastic. So you all decided to move in. What, with all the instruments and everything as well?
It was horrendous. It was. In terms of productivity, it was good because we have on my parents' house we had like a little summer house in the garden.
Oh, fantastic!
We turned that into a studio basically. So we did a lot of sort of recording. We're trying to think. I think it was around our second EP that we were doing a lot of recording there and writing there for that. I might be a little bit hazy on the timeline of it all, but we definitely wrote a lot of stuff there, but ultimately we were there for about a year and a half. I think my mum originally said 3 months, so again she was amazing for letting us stay as long as we did.
Fantastic.
We didn't have full-time jobs, it was part-time roles. That meant we put more time into the band.
Brilliant.
But that can last forever, and at the end of it, it was a little bit weird having your best friends in the house and also your parents. And then, you've got the clashing of if your friends are upset with your parents, they're not going to tell my parents, they're going to tell me. And then if my parents are upset with my friends, my parents are going to tell me. So I just got to a bit of a pretty low place.
Yeah.
We got out of there basically.
Understandable, mate. Yeah, that's fair enough. There's always going to be that kind of friction, and if people struggle to be understanding of the position that you're in as well, being in the middle, then that must have been really difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it's all like, obviously the situation was amazing. Like I wouldn't take it back. Like
it was fantastic to have been able to do it for as long as you did. That's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just know as well from experience with the rest of the guys in the band, with our relationship, our friendship is so much better when we're not living together. Especially with the band, because you'll be out all day in a practice room, in a sweaty room, like being really passionate about the song or whatever, and giving it everything and making the song the way you want it to be. And then you'll maybe have arguments in that practice room, and then you'll go home and you'll be arguing on the way home, and then you'll go to bed and you'd have argued. And it's just like having the, we're not going to see each other until a couple of days. Like we need to resolve like this and make sure our friendship's okay. Whereas I felt like when you live together with the band, it's very intense all the time, always the band. So I would definitely say after my parents' house, the guys moved back. Sort of, Ivan and Fraser moved to Somerset, moved in with their parents. Dean moved to Surbiton, and I stayed just by myself with my parents for a little while. And our relationship just got so much better immediately. It's crazy how much of a change it was.
I can imagine.
But yeah, I guess that's the sort of experience of it. Definitely try it if it works for you. Like, do it, but like maybe if.
But when everybody went there on different locations and stuff, it didn't slow you down, did it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. You sort of adapt, I guess. Adapt, overcome. Sort of make the most of the technologies that you have available to you.
Absolutely. So,
yeah.
How long have you actually been gigging and performing with this band?
With China Bears, I guess our first show. Now I might get this wrong. I think the first show that I did with China Bears is we used to get quite a few shows offered to us through our uni, and our uni was owned by the same guy that owns Metropolis Studios in London. So the first show that we did, we played in the cafe in Metropolis Studios, and it was like an acoustic set.
And
I think that was Christmas time of 2015, but it could be 2014. So I'm a bit hazy.
No worries.
Yeah. It'd be 2015 because I would have started uni in the summer of 2015. So I started uni in September of 2015, and then I think that's how
it was 2015 because you were wearing the green sweater, not the grey one.
Exactly.
All good, don't worry.
Got my haircut on that date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So I'll tell you what, right? We got some more important questions here, all right? So, how do you personally, as in your role as like a bassist, when you're performing, let's go with, first of all, how do you engage the audience?
Good question. I've heard a lot of people make eye contact with everyone in the room, like sort of pan like that. I don't really do that. I guess the way to engage, I guess for me, is to make the performance engaging. Like I guess that's like really obvious like thing to say, but like in the sense of I won't stand there and just sort of like be stationary and just play my instrument
like John Entwistle. Kind of just in the back, just stood there like.
Yeah.
I mean, he was amazing. All fair play to him, but he didn't give much of a physical performance. But
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think, I guess what I sort of like, I like to sort of just throw my whole body into it. And it's just I love having all the different pedals in front of me, and I can like visually do stuff with my feet and change the pedals while I'm playing, and I'll make sure. I think for me, actually, what I will do is I'll interact with other members of the band more than I will kind of the. I mean, I guess I'll sometimes like sort of do a couple of nods to the audience, but I think the engagement with the other members of the band, I think visually, if you're watching that, it's like, okay, these guys are sort of like, they're sort of like communicating with well. Sort of thing. That's what I hope anyway. It looks like.
Plus,
I guess
to be fair, we're talking about being a bassist. Now,
yeah.
I've obviously, bass is my instrument. I've been a bassist in quite a few bands, and I know that actually bass is an instrument which most of the time is pretty much in the background, because your whole even musically is in the background, but it holds, it's a very cohesive part of the band. You're holding everything together. You are the link between the rhythm of the drums and the melody and chords and harmony of the guitar. You are sort of the grounding for everything, holding it all together. So really the flashy performance parts to the audience in sort of an ensemble situation, would you say it's true in your band that it's more left to like the lead guitarist and vocalist?
Absolutely. I think Ivan the singer he definitely has his own sort of, he'll like sort of, he directs to the audience, like in the sense of when he's talking in between songs, or like he'll sort of shout at the audience and stuff, like
hey audience,
come on, like stuff like that. Like it sounds cheap, but it's stuff like that that gives it that extra lift of people that make them want to, like, get into it.
Absolutely. Hence why that's the role of the front man, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's to keep the audience entertained. And our friend's band, we have a friend's band called October Drift. Like at the very beginning of the show, the front man picks up his guitar and he like does this with it. He like goes to the audience and does this while he's strumming, and he like gets everyone to sort of come forward to the stage. And I'm like, that's just such a cool way of just like commanding this room of people. But like, because you're strumming the guitar, which is initially like getting everyone to go, what's that, what's going on? And then you're like going, come over here with your arm. It's really, really clever. And that's a band that do it really well, is the audience sort of participation, and just making everyone feel involved at the concert. Like everyone has their own way of doing it. It's definitely, it's something that you have to do. Absolutely.
So I'll tell you what, right? Let's get some advice from the professional, because in Whiteley you play guitar and sing. I know you're a fantastic drummer as well. You also play bass and backing vocals. You do loads of stuff, man. So you've performed loads, right? Like since you were little, let's be honest. Can you give some advice to people who may be struggling with the performance aspect?
Yeah.
Like people who, especially thinking from like a student's perspective, people who might not have even done it before but want to sort of get out of their shell. Have you got any sort of advice for those people?
I guess maybe don't be afraid to make mistakes on stage, because you learn so much from those mistakes that it's just worth making them. I guess my advice is to just, you are afraid at the beginning. The first concert the first show is never, it's never easy, but you just got to do it, and then you get the what's the word, you get the, you're into it, like you want to do it again. It's quite a rush of adrenaline being on stage, and I feel like you sort of always sort of chasing that after you do it.
Absolutely. I mean, mate, I can completely attest to that. I force my year nines and people who join extracurricular groups and stuff. I've always forced, whenever I can, as much as possible, getting them on stage, getting them performing, even if it's just in front of the rest of the class. And I've had a student who had a panic attack straight after. I had to go get someone for first aid. But after that, she got so into it. She took the BTEC music performance course and absolutely flourished, got distinctions all the way. I was someone who had severe anxiety but played guitar, and she got up and played guitar with Guitar Club. Ellie, shout out to you. Absolutely fantastic. And she cried after. But then I was so proud of her. She got up and did solo at the next concert, and I was like, wow. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's definitely, you don't achieve unless you put that's maybe a bit harsh, but it doesn't happen unless you just give it your all and just go for it.
I don't think that's harsh at all.
I think there definitely, when I was started, there's a whole, what are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of me? Like, if I mess up, if I do this, and it's just like, if you don't do it, like, what are you going to think of yourself? Like, just get out there, put yourself out there, just do it, and you'll love it. That's the only way to sort of get into it. But I guess maybe that is harsh advice if you are very, like, self-aware. And I guess another thing I would say is just really make sure you love what you're doing. And I think other people will say that, like, play that guitar by yourself until you're really happy with, the anxiety builds, I think, going on stage when you're uncertain of what you're playing. So just make sure you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Make sure you've rehearsed it enough.
Yeah, and that'll make you feel better.
Absolutely. Honestly. And then, it's also training the muscle memory and everything. You're getting used to it, especially if you practice performing in front of other people as much as possible before like an actual performance exam piece of coursework or an actual stage gig performance or whatever. I love nipping down karaoke because it's just like an opportunity to get out there and just have a laugh. I'll do like Michael Jackson, even though I've got a bass voice. I'll do Jackson 5 for shiggles. Sometimes I completely impress myself. I'm like, oh my God, how did I do that? But it's just because you don't worry. And I find, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I find that it's a mindset thing. If you focus and think about potential mistakes, you are so much more likely to make them. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then when you make it, you focus on it, you beat yourself up, and it's possible for it to affect the rest of your performance. But that was fantastic advice that you gave. Make sure it's something that you love doing. So if it's like GCSE performance exam or something, make sure it's a song that you absolutely love. That's why you get the choice. You get to choose with your teacher. Make sure it's a song that you absolutely love. And sometimes I've allowed students to do a song which I think is slightly outside of their ability. Because they're clearly passionate about it. And so they may lose some marks for accuracy, but for expression and actual performance skills, they'll do a lot better.
Absolutely. You're more passionate about it. It's all about passion at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So, next question, right? We've talked a bit about performance. Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. Absolute goldmine this. How do you, personally, when you write your own songs, Master Zealey, how do you compose? What's your process?
I guess the short answer. I'll give you a short answer, and then I'll give you a long answer.
Do it.
The short answer is it depends, because I guess sometimes it will be I'll have a lyric, and that'll set the sort of vibe for the rest of the song, or I'll have a melody, and that'll start off the song. But mainly what I do, a lot of the time, a lot of songs I've written, it has been when I have been out for a walk, and I won't have anything else to do but be alone with my brain, and I'll be walking, and then if I get an idea, I'll get my phone out and sort of like hum it into it. Like, you look a bit like a sort of, I guess, a bit weird on the street doing it, but like it's like if you get the idea, you've got to record it to your phone. So, like, my voice memos are just like tons of just weird melodies and stuff, and also if you're doing that, always label them, because like, I've got voice memo 1237, and it's like, what is this one? But quite often it'll be I sing in the shower, and I'll come out the shower, and I'll be like, oh, I've got an idea, and then I'll get a guitar and I'll record it, and I'll work from there. But I guess so. Once you start with the song, it starts, I guess, with that initial inspiration of whatever that might be. Might be a lyric, might be a melody. Might just be a general, I want to write a song about this. I feel passionate about this, and I think that is something that's really important. Definitely for the lyrical, I guess maybe sometimes melodic as well. Be passionate about what you're saying, like, have conviction in what you're saying, because when you listen to that song, whoever's listening is going to tell if you have if this is something that means something to you, or
Absolutely.
Especially in the writing element.
And that is why, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Please do keep in mind where you were with that, because I just want to bring to any potential viewers, listeners' attention that is really, really important. Actually being able to record ideas down. And when it comes to music, that's why it's so important. And I've always been an advocate for being able to use mobile phones in the classroom for music, especially for like Key Stage 4, where they're actually doing compositions and they need to remember their stuff. So that's why I've even allowed students use mobile phones in schools that do not allow it. When I've asked and I've been refused permission, because I just explained, look, it's so important. They need to be able to do it. The issue is when students take the mick and they try to get away with playing blooming games and apps and stuff when they're supposed to be blooming doing their work. That's what gives it a bad reputation. That's why mobile phones get banned in classrooms. So students, don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, rant over. Go.
I feel that. Yeah. No, it's definitely, to be a songwriter, you have to have, I mean, for me, I have to have the voice recorder app and the notepad app next to each other on the phone, so that they're there. I need that now. I need because it's so fleeting. It's so like, if you have an idea and you're humming it in your head, by the next time around, it can be gone because
absolutely.
Like me, I forget it. So I have to there and then, as soon as I get it, I have to record it.
Absolutely.
But sometimes sometimes that doesn't help either. Sometimes, like, once you've recorded just a little piece of it, it's hard to just leave it and then come back to it in a week's time, because you're not in that place anymore. So what I will try to do is try and write the full song in one sitting, and I'll try to, like, I will record a little part on my phone, but purely so I remember it in that moment while I'm writing. So I'm like, okay, I've written that first verse, but I'll record it as I go, so I remember what I've done. And then I'll go back, and then I'll put it all together and I'll re-record it, the whole thing, once I've remembered it and stuff. Quite often I'll get a pencil and pen as well. Pencil and paper, because that helps when you can visually see on a page as well. That sometimes helps. But yeah, so I guess.
And then once you've got that first initial idea, that little bit of inspiration, how do you normally build on it? If it's like a lyric or a melody, say it's a vocal melody, where do you go from there?
I sing nonsense, basically. So I'll sort of work out what chords I want the song to be, and then I'll start to sort of mouth out and sing along, but I won't sing out words because I wouldn't have the words yet. I would just be sort of singing along in syllables. I think that I'd keep jamming it and be like, oh, that sounds nice, blah, blah, like, and then I would eventually go back and put words that fit into that phrasing. Like, there's a band that I really like called Pine Grove, and the singer always says, well, I've seen him say that a lot of the time his lyrical choices are all made on how the words sort of sound. Like, obviously they've still got the meaning, and it's really important that they've still got the meaning, but the way that the words you use are there because of the way that they fit with the melody and the phrasing and sort of the timing of the song. So I quite often do that, I guess. When you're writing a song, when there's a word that you want to say, but it just doesn't fit. But like, whether you want it to rhyme or it doesn't go with the flow of the rest of the song. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, I guess it's a lot of trial and error of you're sitting there with your guitar, play diligently, like just sort of, or piano or whatever instrument you use, and yeah, just trying things, see what you like, see what sounds good. I will, I guess, sort of stick to decide what I want the structure to be, but sometimes that comes through trial and error as well. So whether that be verse, chorus, middle eight, chorus, end, that sort of thing.
Typical structure.
Yeah, exactly. Or but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes that'll change. I think I've recently wrote something that was like verse, middle eight. So it's all
absolutely go Bob Dylan style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Was it? Don't think twice. Is that? Don't think twice. Or is that like just verses over and over again?
No, that was one, and I've got it on my playlist. I think it's A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall.
Yeah, that might actually be the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah. I know Masters of War is just verse over and over again. But yeah, just as long as what you're doing is interesting. That's the thing. If you're gonna do that, it has to be that a song like that is so lyrically, like it has to be so lyrically heavy to I feel keep it engaging. Because if you sort of sing the same over again.
And that was one of the best things about like checking out Bob Dylan's stuff, isn't it? Because he was very, very poetic in the way that he wrote the lyrics. It actually made you want to engage with the words and try to analyze it and feel what he's trying to transmit through the words. Sometimes even more so than the music. And that's why that absolutely, I completely agree. It's very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
So, trial and error. Once you've built it all up, how do you usually sort of write it down? Do you have like the lyrics with like the chords over the top of each word of the lyric that you change chord on? Do you do tab? Do you do chord sheets? Do you do traditional notation?
I know definitely people will do that. Like they'll write the chords or they'll notate it out. I generally, for some reason, I just seem to remember the chords. I always just have the guitar part. I guess it just becomes so ingrained from me just playing it over and over again when I'm writing the lyrics. I never tend to write down what I'm doing, but I will I will record what I've written on guitar on my phone, so I remember what I've done in different places. But yeah, I guess just remembering the sort of progression of the song. After I have a fully written song, my next sort of step is to demo it. So I've got my sort of studio.
Go on, show us.
Keep it in there. But I mean, this is just a keyboard I found on eBay that I run through all my guitar pedals, so I can make it sort of whatever I want. Really, it's just this is just basic like accordion sounds that I just sort of run it through lots of different effects. And
that's all you need.
The Kemper has its own sort of effects rig as well, so I'll use that.
Of course it does. Beautiful.
I've got these. I try and do everything on the cheap. So this Mac is terrible. So I got it in 2015, and it's just so slow. I keep it on and just put it into sleep mode and load it up again when I'm working on a song because it takes that long to load up.
Wow.
Logic. It's like it's just ridiculous. I have a audio interface. This one here is probably
show us properly.
So I think it's a bit dusty, so my studio's a bit of a mess. So I have the audio interface. So I use the M Audio M-Track 2x2C series. That's what it says on it. It's pretty good. I would recommend getting a Focusrite, honestly. This can be a little bit temperamental. The Focusrite, the red Focusrite Scarlet, I think it's called, is really good for starting out, and I think it's really
Sorry,
cheap.
can you like pan across it a little bit, please?
That's basically
just have your that's it. Bit of a zoom out, and we've had that. That's fantastic.
Your screen. I have my speakers are from an old stereo. Basically, my dad's old stereo, and I just use the line out.
Mate, if they still work.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I know that this speaker positioning is wrong. It should be ear height. I don't mix anything. I'm just a demoer. So they just need to make noise for me.
Brilliant.
But yeah, the advice is to have something, have your speakers at ear height.
If you disagree, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, exactly. I'll probably rate my setup. I'll get so much hate. I am aware that this is not the right setup, but it works for me. And basically, I'll do my writing in this. But yeah, so I'll come back.
Fantastic. Hey, that's brilliant though. That's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So you write it, you record it straight into Logic. So then it's all there essentially.
Yeah. So I'll try and arrange it in a full band setting.
Which is basically fantastic because, sorry, just as a quick for students side note, because if you can do it that way at your school, if you can actually record it into a digital audio workstation, then you can export screenshots into PowerPoint and just label each bit for your composition. So that's brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's I definitely think it's very useful when I'm writing a song to convey the idea. If you put it all onto, because if you just record you and your guitar, there's so many variables of what the song is going to be, or what the song can look like. So if you record it in how you want it to be, and so I'll basically, what I've been doing recently, I've got a little MIDI drum kit, I've got an Alesis Nitro thing, and it's like I basically take the MIDI out of that electronic drum kit, and I'll put the drums in first, and I'll play along to the metronome, and then I'll probably put guitars in after that, and then I'll do bass, and then
because you can play everything, you can do everything. Fantastic.
The reason I play everything is because I just spent so long doing like that. I'm like, I don't want to be held back by not being able to do something. But you don't need to be a drummer to do that on Logic. I mean, maybe having a basic understanding of what beats look like, but you can just input it all on in the MIDI of Logic. I'm saying, like, you don't let anything hold you back on Logic, because there's, even if you want to just use the loops that are in there, like you've got, that would be my advice. And
that is decent advice. That's fantastic. So, boom, from first initial idea, grow up on it, put the guitar chords in, or if someone's doing keyboard, whatever, you build on it. Trial and error most of the time, even with structure. Then when it's all done, it's all up there on Logic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right.
Our bass player in Whiteleaf, he is a producer, mix engineer, so I'll quite often send him the demo, and he'll like do like a cool mix of it and make it so much better than anything I could achieve. So it's great to have people like that around you that know what they're doing.
Absolutely, mate. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that is brilliant. That. So, right. I want to talk a little bit about your experience of the music industry. How did you manage to sort out like gigs in Texas? That's fantastic. Did you do it yourself? Did you hire someone to help? What happened?
So, around the time where we left my parents' house, we also signed on with our label, Fierce Panda. Fierce Panda? Yeah.
Mate, no way! China Bears with Fierce Panda?
Yeah. It went together really well. Yeah, it's funny because Simon, the guy from Fierce Panda, was at one of our shows when we were at uni, and then later on he was like, I knew it was always meant to be, because it had to be, we've got to keep the bear theme going. But yeah, no, so they've been really great. Our manager Chris also works at the label, so we've got a great team through that. So the show in Texas we got because Chris was hosting a stage at an official South by Southwest, which is the festival that we played stage in Texas. And yeah, he curated the lineup, and got us on there basically.
That's brilliant. Did you have to book your own like travel and accommodation and everything?
Yeah, we crowdfunded that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we basically played a bunch of charity shows. A lovely music club in Tame donated a ridiculous amount of money to it. It was like we couldn't have done it without him. But we basically played their open mic nights quite regularly, and they just really loved the music and really wanted to help us, and really really kind of them. But we wouldn't have been able to do it without him, really. Like, we would be in so much more financial debt than we are. So but I guess that's a brilliant thing. There are people out, when you get to like making your music, it's okay to ask. Like, if people like the music, they want it to succeed, and I think it's being honest with the fact that if you need the help, you got to ask for it. That's yeah, what I would say anyway.
From your experience so far, how important is it to have a manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely helps a lot in terms of the contacts that you can acquire through it, and so we have met a lot of sort of industry types, and basically for every show, Chris will sort of invite a bunch of sort of industry types to come along to him, or like our London shows. Our manager Chris is great because he's done it all in terms of he's been a promoter himself as well, so he's got really great contacts in the sort of booking world. And like if we're trying to book the majority of the shows are actually still booked by Ivan, our singer. He's essentially the band's booking agent, really. But Chris has these contacts that you really help us out, especially in like London. But Chris also it's just having that insight of the experience of the industry, of telling us what to do in terms of like release schedules and like giving it second opinions on tracks as well. Like, you know, he will be like, I think this part needs the cymbals are too loud here, or, you know, really critical level, like I think this needs to be better, or stuff like that. But it's definitely important to have a manager that really loves the music, and we're lucky in the sense that Chris is a fan of the band, and that really helps. But you don't want to get into these sort of shady. There's like the music industry is so corrupt, like in the sense that you don't want to be in one of these shady deals, especially with managed and also like labels where they'll take every dime that you ever make and you'll never see any of it, and you know, they might do something but they might not. So it's really important to just hold out for someone that you know loves the band, I guess, and that's not going to do you wrong.
I personally feel especially bad for young, vulnerable teenage girls who are more likely to get preyed upon by
sharks.
Yeah.
Industry sharks. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
but
it's a dangerous
so
place.
Managers mostly have loads of contacts. They have loads of experience within the music industry. They love your music. Would you say they are some of like the most important things for a manager to have?
Yeah, I would say so. I guess it's just the guidance, really, like making bands moving in the right direction. I think that's what the best thing a manager can offer. I mean, it's also Chris really is great for like helping us out with our inbox and stuff. Like, so quite often we'll be like, we're chatting to someone about something, and then Chris is like, I'll take over this. Like, you guys don't need to deal with this sort of thing, and that's really useful. Brilliant. So it's taking some of the pressure, I guess, off of the administration.
That's fantastic. So you guys can just focus on the music.
Yeah, exactly. It's helping us in any kind of area that we sort of need help.
And so he just takes a percentage of your profit, doesn't he?
Yeah, but eventually that is essentially how the sort of you'd write up your management contract, and then anything you make, you take a percentage of that, and that's kind of I think that's the kind of deal that you want, because the manager doesn't make any money on that kind of deal unless you do. So they'll be passionate about trying to make sure you make money, because otherwise they won't make any money either. So
exactly.
I've heard of deals of like an upfront payment to have a manager, and it's like that's just not what you want, because you know that they're that's going to be bad, because they're just doing it. They'll drop you. I'm pretty sure, like that sort of thing. Like, there's nothing keeping them there if they've had the initial payout. So definitely have someone who cares about music.
Yes.
That's what I'll say.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what about being part of an independent label? What made you want to reach out to a label?
I guess I guess it's the contacts that our label have to offer. Our label have quite a good relationship with Steve Lamack at BBC Six, So we get a sort of decent amount, but like, you know, a good amount of sort of radio play through our label, doing stuff, that sort of thing. I guess, yeah, pushing us to sort of in different to communicate with different people throughout the industry. Yeah, definitely useful in that sense. Different
in
bands
terms of, like, does this particular record label, was it them who sorted out the gigs in Texas, or was it your manager?
It was the Fierce Panda curated stage in Texas. So it was through.
Oh wow! So they have their own stage in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. So they hosted the stage at the festival. But Chris, Fierce Panda is Simon and Chris basically. So, and Chris is our manager. I guess the label helps with PR side of things, and sort of getting it to the right types of industry, getting the radio play, that sort of thing. Yeah, but the contracts that we've had have all been digital, so not physical releases. They've been the sort of the digital side of things. So they would take over the uploading it to Spotify through a distributor. Sorry.
Yeah.
That side of things. So we don't have to do any of that. The label sort of gets all that sorted for us and make sure we're on the sort of relevant streaming sites. And then like the percentage of the royalties that occurred from accrued. Is that right? I think that's the right one. From those songs basically. That's how it's working for us.
That is fantastic. So they get you up on Spotify, they host a stage in a different country and get you over there.
Brilliant.
So that is absolutely fantastic. And I tell you what, I just want to thank you again so much for your time. And this insight is so needed, especially for young people who may be considering a career in the music industry. It's absolutely fantastic, and honestly, I wish you all the best. I cannot express enough how incredibly proud I am to have had the honour of teaching you and knowing you, James Zealey. You are one of the politest, most respectful, most talented, fantastic people I've had the pleasure to meet and know and still be in contact with.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, likewise. You know, like the stuff you taught me, I still use every day. So you know, that's saying a lot from school. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, bless you, man. I appreciate that. Oh, that's really, really kind.
I know it gets tough.